number one on the list of these top PSYOP moments. What do you got, Dr. Tracy?
So I am going out on a limb, and I realize this may be controversial, and people may disagree, but I'm going to say Operation Desert Storm in 1990 and 91. So a little bit of background. So it's August 1990. The Iran-Iraq War has just ended a couple years before that. The Soviet-Afghan War had recently ended. The Cold War was coming to an end. The Berlin Wall was coming down at this time frame. And the U.S. had just gotten done successfully accomplished its mission of getting rid of Manuel Noriega down in Panama. Okay. I don't think that anybody expected another conflict to come so soon. But one came in August of 1990. Saddam Hussein, president of Iraq, he had been in disputes with his neighbor Kuwait over oil production, over certain territorial claims. So he decided to invade en masse in August of 1990. U.S. was caught off guard, like much of the world was. The reaction on the world stage was pretty swift and pretty decided. There was a massive coalition built. Around 30 countries and close to 1 million soldiers gathered in the deserts of Saudi Arabia to both defend that country. There was fears that he might try to invade Saudi Arabia next. And then it became sort of an objective that he would need to be removed forcibly, if necessary, from Kuwait. The United Nations had given Saddam a deadline of 15 January of 1991 to remove all his forces, and if not, he would be removed by force. Well, he did not. He did not comply, and so the rest is history. The air war campaign started on 17 January 1991, and the ground campaign started on February 24th and only lasted. It's called the 100-hour war. It only lasted for about 4 or 5 days. Right. So as part of this, the psychological opera, I mentioned the organizational buildup in Vietnam. There was something similar. There's a pretty substantial buildup of PSYOP forces in the Middle East as well, involving multiple active duty battalions, U.S. Army Reserve battalions, the 193rd Special Operations Group, which is an aerial Pennsylvania Air National Guard unit that provides radio broadcasting support to PSYOP units, totaling about 600 PSYOP soldiers deployed during that time frame.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you could say that this was, even though the regiment was still not established yet, that would be 1998 when that was established, you could say this was something of a whole of regiment approach. It cut across all units, reserve, active component, it involved National Guard. So it really was sort of a holistic approach. Multiple media. So they deployed 70 loudspeaker teams roughly throughout the entire coalition, liaison teams throughout the entire coalition. They had a radio network called Voice of the Gulf, consisted of stationary transmitters in 2 different locations, plus the 193rd SOG aircraft, videos. A reserve battalion, which was the only PSYOP battalion with the enemy prisoner of war EPW mission, was deployed, and they supported 800th MP Brigade at several different enemy prisoner of war locations. So the war lasted very, very short amount of time, but the reason why it's so important for PSYOP is because PSYOP really was recognized as being a contributing factor to the overall success. It was front page news. Everybody saw Iraqis surrendering by the thousands, waving white T-shirts and leaflets and things like that. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 17,000, there were 17,000 desertions out of a total of 87,000 enemy prisoner of war. 98% attributed leaflets as they had said that leaflets had made some impact on them, whether it was to lay down their arms, whether it was to abandon this military location, whether it was to surrender or desert. Wow. 98%, 58% had heard radio broadcast, 34% had heard loudspeaker broadcast. There was another aspect to this too. There was a military deception effort. That was the first part of the PSYOP campaign that was developed, was this military deception campaign. And the idea is what they wanted to do was, the coalition, they wanted to have Iraqi forces as much as possible not positioned along the border. So as many as they could keep on the eastern coast of Kuwait, the better. So they developed a concept called the WAVE. And the WAVE was a leaflet in which depicted U.S. Marine Corps forces that were going to launch a massive amphibious assault on the eastern coast of Kuwait. Here was the problem, though. Prior to the deadline, we could not launch any offensive operations, to include PSYOP. But they needed it to sort of kick off in order for it to have any impact on how the combat operations played out. So what they did is they studied the currents of the Persian Gulf, studied when certain currents could be expected to hit the shore, and a day or two before combat operations actually began, they loaded 12,000 of these leaflets they loaded 12,000 soda bottles, full of these leaflets, the WAVE leaflets, which washed ashore, which were programmed to catch a certain current and washed ashore the day before the combat operations began. And they had found out that Iraqi Corps commanders had taken it seriously, had built up sand tables of where potential attack from the sea may come, and repositioned forces accordingly. So, the effort had a lot of interagency coordination, a lot of partner nation coordination. There was a combined PSYOP cell operating out of Riyadh with multiple international partners. So Desert Shield, Desert Storm, it just has a little bit of everything for everybody who's interested in PSYOP, and it's just a massive military success and a lot of positive light for PSYOP in that particular conflict.